So, you don't like parties?
No, I don't like parties.
Do loud places give you a headache?
Yes, they do.
Does socializing drain your energy?
Uh-huh.
Are you sure you're not just an introvert?
What the
Seriously, it is an important question. What's the real difference between being autistic and being an introvert? After this video, you'll have a much clearer idea of whether you could be autistic or not, and have confidence to take the next step in your diagnosis journey. And what about ambiverts? Yes, ambiverts. Let's go. Welcome, my stars of Orion. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Orion Kelly, that autistic guy. I'm all about providing validation and support for autistic people and their loved ones. Autism versus introversion or ambiversion. Let's start with the basics. Okay, so autism is a lifelong neurodevelopmental condition. It impacts how we experience the world, from how we communicate, to how we process sensory input, to how we interpret social dynamics. Our autistic brain, in effect, is the reason why we experience the world around us completely differently to non-autistic people. Autism is a neurotype, not a personality style. Introversion is a personality trait. So introverts recharge by being alone. They're not antisocial, they're just selectively social. They might love deep conversation and still need a nap after a group chat. Extroverts gain energy from social interactions. They thrive on talking, connection, stimulation. And ambiverts, well, they're somewhere in the middle. So sometimes social, sometimes solitary, depending on mood, energy, and context. Hang on a second, I think I'm an ambivert. Let's talk about the overlap. Okay, so why do people confuse autism with introversion? Okay, well, sometimes the behaviors look similar. Both autistic people and introverts might avoid gatherings, parties. We both might seek quiet environments. We both might seem withdrawn, even reserved. But here's the key thing. The why actually matters. See, an introvert skips the party to protect their energy. An autistic person might avoid it because of the sensory overwhelm. Flashing lights, music, conversations, you don't know where they're going to go. Unspoken social rules can create a sensory and cognitive minefield. So both autistic people and introverts enjoy alone time. But autistic people may actually need it to recover from masking from our sensory overload, or just from navigating a world that wasn't built for us. It's the bout you've been waiting for. Autistic people versus introverts. Ding! All right, so now that we've talked about where autism and introversion overlap, let's dig in to where they're very different. Because a lot of people, including medical professionals, still confuse the two. Now, what happens? Well, it leads to misdiagnosis. It leads to people thinking you're just shy. Big differences I think you need to know. Number one, it's actually not about preference. It's about processing. Introverts prefer quiet time. They choose solitude because it recharges them. Whereas autistic people may also seek solitude, but not as a preference. It's often because social interactions are confusing, overwhelming, debilitating, exhausting on a neurological level. So a quick example, an introvert might leave a party because they've just had enough, like they've enjoyed it, it's been fun, they're tired. An autistic person might leave not because they've had fun and that's that, but because they're masking, they've been suppressing all the issues, all the triggers. They've become so overstimulated, they're now so dysregulated, they're about to legit shut down. It's life and death. Get out now or die. Number two, let's talk about communication differences. Introverts can still pick up on social cues, sarcasm, tone of voice. They simply might not always engage in it, but they usually understand it. They know the game, they have the rules. They just might not always feel like engaging in those rules and games. Autistic people, on the other hand, struggle with this. Now, not because we're not interested, but because our brain processes communication differently. Things like eye contact, body language, cues, verbal, non-verbal, taking things literally, sarcasm, even knowing when it's our turn to speak, and needing time to process and respond. These aren't personality quirks. These are autistic traits. Sensory sensitivities, we've got introverts who aren't usually bothered, as a rule, by the sensory stuff, by the lights and the sounds and the crowds. And then we've got autistic people who often are triggered. Sensory overload is a major factor in avoiding social settings. A noisy environment, a noisy room, gathering, party, isn't just annoying to us. It's actually and can be physically painful, even disorientating. So I don't feel like going is not really the case. It's, well, I could go, but the lights, the sounds, the crowd, I'm probably going to get triggered, overwhelmed, shut down, and then I'll be basically dead in my room for a week. Number 4, routine and predictability. So introverts may prefer structure, but they still have the ability to adapt, to roll with the punches when structure isn't adhered to. Many autistic people rely on routine and predictability to simply reduce our day-to-day anxiety. So a last-minute change might throw an introvert off a little, but as an autistic person, it feels like literally the rug has been pulled out from under us, triggering the stuff you don't want to be triggered. Dysregulation, meltdown, shutdown, and hopefully not autistic burnout. So you can see this isn't just a quiet person versus a quiet neurodivergent thing. Autism is not just extreme introversion. It's a totally different way of experiencing the world, socially, emotionally, physically. That's why understanding these differences really matters, especially for late diagnosed autistic people, or questioning whether you may be an autistic person. We've reached the sexy point, my friends. Ambiverts. Let's talk about ambiverts, because this is where things get really interesting, especially in the context of autism. Okay, so ambiverts are kind of the in-betweeners. So they can enjoy social situations and alone time. They might love deep conversation, but hate small talk. They can feel energized by people one day, totally drained the next. Does that sound familiar? I bet it does. A lot of autistic people can actually really strong and hard relate to this middle ground. But it's not because we're ambiverts in the traditional sense. It's because our energy levels, sensory thresholds, and social capacity can fluctuate day to day. But I'll tell you, I'm loving the ambivert vibe. I am an ambivert. Seriously though, here's the difference. Ambiverts shift between introvert and extrovert tendencies based on context. So autistic people might appear ambiverted, but often it's a balancing act between masking, burnout, and sensory regulation. So if you're autistic and thinking, well, I do love socializing, but only with certain people, and only when I'm not overloaded or triggered or dysregulated, that's probably going to mean you're not an ambivert. It might just mean you're managing your energy the only way your nervous system knows how. So in short, you can be an ambivert and autistic. You can look like an ambivert, but actually be responding to your autistic needs. Think of it like this. So you've got a social energy meter and a sensory load bar underneath. Even if you want to socialize, your sensory load might hit the red zone and then boom, you out, dysregulated, crashed, done. So yes, autistic people can be ambiverts, but often our switching is about survival, not preference. We are not just shy. Autism is a neurotype. Introversion is a personality trait. Introverts might want peace and quiet. Autistic people might literally need it to function and live. Introverts avoid stimulation. Autistics, like me, are overwhelmed by it. And here's the biggest point. Just because someone is quiet, withdrawn, or doesn't love big crowds doesn't mean they're just an introvert. Sometimes it can be something deeper. Do you relate more to introversion, extroversion, or somewhere in the middle? And how does being autistic change the way you see that? I'd love to know your thoughts and stories. Put them in the comments below. And if this video got you thinking, well, you'll really want to check out my playlist, Autism Diagnosis for Adults.